Okay. Hello, everyone, again. Thank you so much for joining today. Um, as always, I can see so many names that are very common in our webinars and also a lot of new names. So thank you so much. My name is Maria. I am one of the conservation officers here in the DDCR, in the Dubai Desert Conservation Reserve. Um, just a little bit of background. It's the first national park that was established in the UAE. It is 225 square kilometers of just, pristine and beautiful desert. We have all native species of animals and plants that they live wild and roaming free. So it is a beautiful place. If you guys didn't visit it, you should. We have a visitor center that is open for public. And yeah, and if you want to be part of the volunteer program, you can always send me an email. And then, yeah, you can help us a little bit. So we started this series of webinars last year, and we basically invite people that are in the conservation world or nature here in the UAE. And today we have Peter Bergh with us. He actually started working in the Al Maha Resort back in the days when it was um, almost established. So he has been in the DDCR for a really, really long time. So if any of you has any questions regarding of how it used to look, you can always ask him. So he will talk to us about a very interesting topic, especially in this country, which is falconry. So yeah, so he will explain about that, and then in the end we will have the time for questions and answers. So you can always, write in the chat. Thank you so much, and Pete, it's all yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me right there, Maria?
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. This is the first webinar I've done, so please bear with me. But first of all, I want to extend thanks to Maria, the team at the DDCR. Thanks for reaching out. For me, it's a real honor. I love talking about falconry. I'm very passionate about it. It's been my life for a very long time. So if I can share some of the stuff I've learned, some of the knowledge I have on this art form to paint a picture the way I hope to paint it, then I'm obviously going to jump at it and take every opportunity I can to share that information. So yeah, thank you very much for having me, and hopefully this goes all right and you guys enjoy what I'm about to tell you. All right. Now, folks, as Maria mentioned, I've been in the UAE for 25 years now. Okay, so I started my career at the Al Maha Desert Resort, the hotel, when it first just after it opened. I came over as a horse guy and then discovered falconry. So I didn't come to the UAE as a falconer. I did have a passion for animals, and I was obviously that's kind of what I've always done. So the falconry part came a bit easier, I guess, the understanding of animal behavior, judging animal behavior, and then sort of making decisions. And that's quite important, as you will find out as we go through. It's all about reading the animals and kind of working with them. We're not really the boss. So you'll figure out that through the course of my chat. It's all about the birds and it's all about them. It isn't really about us. Now, guys, what we're going to be doing, or the way I'm going to do it, is we're going to focus very much or primarily on falconry out here in the Emirates. Traditional falconry. Why is it so big? Why is it so popular? Why is it so important to the Arab culture? And then I'm going to touch on some of the techniques, some of the training techniques, some of the equipment you see, some of the things that the birds wear, some of the furniture that we have. And then I'm going to talk about sort of modern day falconry. Which direction is it going in? Some of the tools we use, some of the modern day tools that we use to get them fit and strong. And then there's a commercial side. So I'm a commercial falconer, and I do have a team of birds and a team of guys. And we do a variety of commercial activities with our birds in order to pay the bills. So that's sort of the way we're going to lay out the chat this evening. And hopefully by the end, you're going to have some questions that you can ask me. And we'll just take it from there. So, all right, let's rewind a bit and let's go back and think. If you look at any given time now, you're driving down the road, you look up at the signboard, you will see the picture of a falcon, yeah, on the D number. There's a little falcon there. all of the government buildings, you'll see the emblem of a falcon. Okay. Now, why is this the case, and why is falconry such a big deal out here? You see, traditionally, okay, the nomads, the Bedouin, relied on the falcon the way you and I rely on the supermarket. Okay, so the falcon was used to catch protein that the Bedouin were able to then feed their family a protein diet. Okay, so it wasn't really about, it wasn't a hobby, it wasn't really a sport, it was a way of life. Okay, so it was very much about using the falcon to feed the family and then letting the bird go again, which I'll explain. Now, contrary to popular belief, there is no such thing as an Arabian falcon. Okay, so falcons do not live and breed here in Arabia. I guess we've all been here for a little bit of time, and we know how tough the summers are. And falcons are just, they don't want to be here in summer. Okay, so all the birds that the Bedouin ever used and ever got were birds that were on a migration. Okay, so they were migrating between Europe and Central Asia, and they were migrating to Africa. Okay, now how this works, how does it work, right? Is you see in Asia and in Europe, you will have a male and a female, a pair of falcons that will pair up, and they will have 3 or 4 babies in a nest. Okay, this happens around springtime. And then after springtime, obviously the weather changes, the babies learn to hunt, the parents teach them, and then the onset of winter comes along. Okay. And what happens is the parents will now chase those babies away. Okay, if the babies don't want to leave, they will even kill them in some cases. Okay, that's how harsh they will be if needed. And over evolution, these falcons have worked out there's a place called Africa. Okay, and this big mass migration happens where all these birds from Central Asia and Europe make the trek, make the flight down to Africa, where there's an abundance of food. Okay, it was on this migration, it was on this movement of birds, was when the Bedouin and the Arabs traditionally would catch, trap, and obtain their birds. Okay, so they were typically only getting a couple of types of birds. Today things have changed, which we'll talk about a bit later, but traditionally there were only ever a couple of the peregrine varieties. There was an Asian Seika variety, and that was really about it. Okay, what is also interesting, it's only always first year falcons that do the migrating. Okay, you never get a mature bird that migrates. So these birds head down to Africa. All right, they feed off, and they just feed throughout what would be the winter months in Europe, and then at the end of the cycle, okay, these birds on migration would turn around and they would come back home to the nesting grounds. Okay, when these birds returned home, on their way back, the Bedouin in this part of the world, in sort of Arabia, they would time it to release the captive falcons that they had over the winter months that they used to hunt for the family. They would simply untie their birds and release them back into the wild, okay, to let them go back again, to join the migration, to go home. And once they were home, then pair up and breed, and they never migrate again. So it's only ever first year falcons, so it's the babies that take on that migration. Now, Maria, I wonder if you could put up the first poll on the percentage of juvenile falcons. I wonder how many people we can see. How interesting that would be,
Let me see.
So basically, guys, we're going to put up a poll now. Let's see how many of you will get this. So obviously 100% of the babies, I mean, maybe a few wouldn't make it down to Africa, but then whilst they are in Africa and they are going through, just the rigors of life, the learnings, the teachings, it's quite tough for them. Okay, so they don't just have it, although they're apex predators get preyed on by other apex predators. So and primarily in the case of falcons, it's other birds of prey. So it's either falcons, it's hawks, it's eagles, and also owls. So owls are a big reason, or they, especially in the nighttime, they will kill a lot of falcons as well. So there is an interesting percentage of birds that return back home, and it'll be interesting to hear. When would you like me to share the answer on that?
Yes, I am sharing it already. I just think that you cannot see it, but I can see the responses. So we have 29% of people that voted 25. Then we have 14% of people that voted 55. And then 57% of the people voted 75%.
Right. Yeah, well done, guys. That's exactly it. So 75% of falcons do not make it. So 3 out of 4 babies will die in that first year of life. Okay, that's sort of the odds on these birds making it. And so the birds that were in captivity with the Bedouin traditionally, and then being released back, obviously they were very hopeful that one day they might be able to trap one of the offspring of the birds that they had. I mean, there are some stories that go around, but that is quite interesting just to know that, you know. And for the Bedouin and for the Arabs, what they had was quite a short window at which to get their birds that they had just trapped. Um, Trapped these birds that were wild. Okay, now bear in mind they were already hunting, they were already catching food for themselves, and they were already sort of self-sufficient. Okay, so as a falconer, part of my job when I'm training captive bred birds is I need to teach them how to do all of those jobs. Where now these birds that were in the wild that had been trapped can already do this task, you know. So the Bedouin's job really was to tame them, make them calm, okay. And in falconry, we use the term called manning, okay, which is making them sort of accept us into their space and into their world. Then then the sort of the relationship between falconer and falcon is all about food. Okay, so these birds would the relationship then builds and develops through the association of food. As a falconer, we then become the food provider. And if we can just bear in mind that, or just understand that falcon, unlike humans, unlike you and I, they cannot take on food at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right, their metabolic rate is the way that they process food takes them about 16 or 18 hours to process food that they've eaten. So typically, birds will either eat in the morning or in the evenings before they go to bed, which is evening before they go to bed is the more preferred um, eating patterns of a wild bird, but in captivity, especially out here now, the mornings are better for us temperature wise, you know. It's at that note, I'm just going to bring in one of my props. I can talk a bit more in detail. All right, guys. What I've got here for you is a falcon. She's a female. Now, between your males and your females, the female is approximately 1/3 larger than the male. Okay, so whether this is hawks, eagles, owls, falcons, the female is substantially larger than the male. And the main reason for why nature has done that is really to make her, the female is the bodyguard. Okay, so when there are babies, when there are eggs on the nest. Her job is to bodyguard, protect, look after the nest space. The male's job in all of this, so they've made him a little bit smaller. The male's job is to go out and get food, okay, and just feed and bring food back to the female while she's sitting on the nest. Okay, so this girl over here, she's a female. I don't know her very well at all. Okay, I was actually she was a gift to me this morning. So she's not named yet, and what I'm not going to at this stage of the game, folks. I'm not going to remove this hood on her head at the moment because we don't really know each other yet. Okay, so she is still quite new to me. I'm new to her, and I think it'll just be a little bit unfair to stress her and put her out in a position where this would probably freak her out. Okay, now Maria, would you mind putting up the first on the
Yes,
okay
the poll.
the poll on. So a falcon's eyesight makes up a really big portion of their entire bodily senses. Okay, so they do have the sense of touch. Okay, you can see there she reacts. They do have the sense of taste. The sense of taste is very, very acute as well. So, for example, our food of choice is really quail. However, you do also get we do feed pigeons, we do feed rabbits, and when we change the diet, I do notice a change in their behavior. So it suggests that their taste buds are really working well. The sense of smell is non-existent. Okay, so falcons do not have a sense of smell, and it's very much the eyesight which is their number one sense that they use to operate on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, 80% of the people voted 80%, and then 20% voted 60% of the percentage.
Okay, I mean, do you know, folks, I would say, like, I've done thousands of shows in my life where I've kind of a similar sort of chat to this, and not many people get these percentages right. So we've clearly got some informed listeners here this evening. So yeah, that's entirely true. Hey, so 80% of a falcon's bodily senses is its eyesight. And this device is, over the 25 years that I've been doing falconry and falcon shows and entertainment, um, this is the most commonly asked question I get, you know. So why do we put hoods on our falcons, and what is the purpose of that crash helmet? Really what it is, it's just a calming device. It's a calming tool. It keeps her relaxed, it keeps her calm. And we only really use them in potentially stressful situations, okay? So we don't use them all day long. We don't use them willy-nilly. We use them when I fear or when I judge that this bird is in a potentially stressful situation, and it will avoid and stop her from baiting, which is another word for sort of jumping. Because really what I'm trying to do at the end of the day is look after all of these gorgeous feathers. Okay, so if you have a look at her, she is absolutely pristine. Okay, there's not a single feather out of place. And that is very important. Okay, so obviously these birds need their feathers to perform and get the job done, and it's my job as a falconer to really take care of those feathers and look after them. Okay, now I just want to touch a little bit on when I suggested that I'm not going to remove the hood now because in fear of, I don't want her to freak out. I don't want her to get upset. And really we build a relationship over time. Okay, and that relationship is built on trust, it's built on repetition. And if you the best time for me to be her friend, especially at the beginning when I don't really know her, and I'm going to tell you a funny little story here, okay, next, which you might find a little bit entertaining, is that my best time to be in her company and share company with her and make friends with her is when I have food in my hand. Okay. Now, she was fed this morning. Okay. So she's on the morning shift. So the next time she's going to get food is tomorrow morning. So even maybe I could have sat here and chatted to you guys while I was giving her some food if we really wanted to see her. But anyway, it's up till tomorrow morning when she's next going to get her meal. Now, folks, when I suggested that 3 out of these 4 babies will die in their first year of life and being killed by other birds of prey, it normally happens while they're sitting on the ground eating their food. Okay. So the other bird of prey, be it another falcon, it wants to first of all eliminate the competition, and then it potentially wants to steal the food. Okay, so what nature's done is that 16-hour metabolic rate that I was telling you about, that slow process of digesting the food, comes from the fact that these birds, what nature has given her is this crop, like a chipmunk, where she stores her food, and that crop is situated just in the front here. You'll see there's a cavity. I can stick my finger inside that cavity now, okay? Because she's starting to empty. That food from this morning is emptying out, and now it's in her gut. But first of all, when she first eats it, this is like a tennis ball in the front of her crop, okay? And then she will slowly start to process that food, push it over, and then run it down into her gut where she digests it and then processes the food, you know? So that's quite an important thing to note is the diet and how little they need to eat. Although when they do sit and they do sit down and eat, they will eat approximately 1/10 of their body weight. All right. Now to put that into perspective for you, 1/10 of my body weight is approximately about 8 rump steaks. Okay. So if I was to sit down and go through that quantity of food, I probably wouldn't be able to walk again for 3 days, you know. So they have an incredible ability to process, digest really high protein food. Some other equipment that this bird is wearing on her, you'll see that if I can just get a little bit closer, she's got a ring on her leg. Okay, this is to prove that she's been bred in captivity. Okay, so she's not a wild caught bird. And in modern day, in falconry today, the capture of wild birds and trading with wild birds is against the law. Okay, so for the purpose of falconry, we will be using birds, especially commercial operators, 100%, is birds that are bred in captivity, that are registered, that have vet certificates, and that are all sort of above board and sort of done through the correct channels, you know. And then next, she's wearing what's called some anklets, which are just on her, these little blue things, which are just on her legs at the base. And then from the anklets to the leash, we have what are called jesses. And that is what I'm able to hold her, and then down to the leash, and that's where she's tethered. Okay. Now, folks, I want to just touch on something here quick, where I get asked quite often in my shows in the afternoons. Folks are going like, but you know, if they're hooded and they're just relaxing, don't they want to be out flying around and racing about? You see, there was a study done in Amsterdam over 24 months, over a 2-year period, and what the students went out every single day and they studied these birds, a pair of peregrines that were on a cathedral nesting. And over a 2.5-year period, these birds flew for an average of 2.5 minutes per day. Okay, so being an apex predator, as long as they're really full of food and they are satisfied from an appetite point of view, they're really their favorite thing to do is rest, or like a lion would do, is sleep underneath a tree, you know. So the same is true for these guys, where they want to, as long as they're full of food, they are happy to just relax and be just be by themselves. They're actually also very solitary, even between, excuse me, the male and the female. They choose to spend time mostly by themselves, unless it comes towards sort of the breeding time of year, you know. Okay. Well, let me just when we move over to the training, and with the Bedouin, they were limited because obviously they were pressured and put under pressure by the season. Okay, so they just had the winter months to utilize the falcon and get protein into their diet. Now, because the bird could hunt and it could already kill. Getting them manned, getting them calm, and getting them used to you was the first step. And then they would be presenting them with food, so they would start to eat with you. And then you would slowly move that away. Today, you ask her to step to your glove, just literally one little step. Tomorrow, one little jump. The next day, one little flap. So basically, you do little increments of where the bird ends up, then eventually just sort of flying to you for that reward, which is its daily meal. To where you get to the point where in English we call it a lure, and in Arabic we'll call it a tilwa, you know, which is in many cases it's a wing of a Hubara bustards, which is swung around, and the birds will chase that because they understand, if I catch that, I will get my reward, which is my daily meal, you know. So that's the meal ticket. By doing that, we build muscle, we keep them strong, we keep them fit, and we also use the tilwa or the lure as a retrieval tool. So if the falcon goes out, has a hunt, and fails to catch anything, when we pull up the lure and we call it back, that is the retrieval tool to get the falcon to come back and return. I hope I'm making sense. I hope everyone's sort of following my story so far. And it leads me on to once the Bedouin had their bird returning to them, and they were confident that the falcon knows who they are, knows that they are a food provider, and knows that they are loyal in providing that food, then it's a matter of finding the prey species and getting on with the hunt. Okay. Now, it's quite different. I'm obviously from South Africa, and I do practice the Arab style of falconry every single day because I train falcons for the purpose of hunting for some local Emirati guys. But I have a real passion and a real sort of lust for the Western style of falconry. Now, I'll just explain those two differences quickly, and then you will understand how and why the Arabs do the falconry they do their way. So the way that my desired style of falconry would be where it's more about the flight than it is about the kill of any given prey. Okay, so what I mean by that is we would go into the field with our trained hawk, okay, our trained falcon, sorry, and we would find the prey species that we're looking for and we want to catch. Okay, then what we do is we back up, and at this point we are using dogs, pointing dogs that would find scent and be able to spot the prey species. We would then back up, release our falcons, which would climb to a pitch, to an altitude, okay? And that altitude is deemed by the falconer to be sufficient in order to make this beautiful and gorgeous stoop through the sky down towards the prey species, okay? So what we've got is the communication and the training of a dog, the training and communication of the falconer, and then this, all three of us, for this play to come together, there's quite a lot of effort and work goes into that flight coming off. And it's more about how does that flight look and how vertical is it to get some incredible speeds from these birds, and then hopefully resulting in a kill if that's what you're after. But more so, it's how did my dog work? How did the falcon fly? How did it gain pitch? And how did it come down? Those are sort of things that I'm looking for, and those are the things that I would really be, if I was not in Arabia, that's the style of falconry I'd be practicing. Okay, now, how do the Arabs do it? If you can understand now, so I'm the Western style is more for the flight and the visual aspect of it. Now, we've just been talking for the last little while already about how important it was for the Arabs to put food on the table, and these were the guys putting the food on the table for them, that their style of falconry was not based on enjoying the flight. Okay, it was about being efficient, it was about killing, and it was about getting food onto the table for the family. And the way that they would do that is by a similar scenario. They wouldn't necessarily use pointing dogs. They would go out with binoculars or whatever they had in the early days, and they would find the prey species. Okay, and the bird of choice for any Arab falconer, even today when you ask them, is a bird called a hubara bustard. And that is like a bit like an overgrown chicken. It's a desert chicken which migrates to this region. I'll pull up a slide shortly and show you a picture of the hubara. And it really takes flight, and it's a really good flying bird. But it also has a great deal of protein on it. So it's quite a substantial meal. And then the Bedouin were able to obviously feed their family from that. So the way that that flight went is they find the hubara in the distance. The falcon would be on the glove. Okay, they would then get the hood off, take the hood off the falcon, and the falcon would fly in a straight line in pursuit of the hubara bustard and fly down, basically, just in a straight line flight. And if there was an abundance of prey around, the Bedouin would, first of all, they'd have to race over, okay, because falcons do not retrieve, they're not retrievers. And importantly, you need to get there before the falcon has filled itself up with food, okay? Because if the falcon fills her crop up, she now no longer needs me in theory. She's got her own food, right? So the Bedouin had quite a task. And what they would do is, today we have some modern day GPS systems and tracking devices that we can attach to our falcons, which help us find them, okay? Back in the day, they did not have those luxuries. And what they had to do was they would put bells sometimes on the tail feathers or on the legs of the falcon. So as they moved, these bells, really high-pitched bells, would ring out, But they would have to make their way across to the falcon where it went down, whether it was by camel, whether it was by horse, or whether it was on foot, okay, and get there before the bird had consumed enough food where it now no longer needed the falconer. Okay, so that was a little bit of a challenge, and often there's often stories of a successful hunt happened, but it was at a distance, and then therefore a falcon was lost as a result because they weren't able to reach there in time. Okay, so now today we fast forward to 2025, and falconry for the Arabs is still very live and well. Okay, it is practiced. I'd say right now today there are more falconers in Saudi Arabia than the rest of the world combined. Okay, so now in the UAE, there's probably more falconers than most of the world combined as well. So it is. There are literally in this part of the world, it's falconry mecca. Okay, it's still very much part of. Well, it's in their culture, right? Where for guys like myself, it's just become a passion, and it's sort of a bit of an addiction that I have, and I have had it for a long time. But where I think for the Arabs, it's really sort of their fathers did it, their grandfathers did it, their great grandfathers did it. So it's a different sort of family. It's been passed down from family to family, family to children. Now a lot of it was primarily a male-dominated art form, but although today it is widely practiced by, I won't say it's 50-50 at this stage because of the Arab world, although a lot, I mean, in the Western world, there's a lot of, I would almost go so far as to say it was 50-50 in the Western world, but out here in the Middle East, there are a lot of Arab women starting falconry now these days, which is excellent. And but it isn't the ratio isn't as high as in the Western world. All right, folks. So now we are. I mean, I just want to look how we're going here. Maria, is everything all right so far? Let me pull up.
Yeah, maybe you have like 5-10 minutes
Okay,
if you're
so
okay with that.
sure. Guys, so we're going to move on now to sort of myself as a commercial falconer. How do I do this? How do I make money from it? I have a team of birds and a team of a team of staff. And what we do is we work primarily inside the Dubai Desert Conservation Reserve. Okay, the Dubai Conservation Reserve is quite stern and quite forward thinking in the sense that all of our birds need to be registered. We need to have vet certificates. They need to be really all above board. So we won't be using birds that are trapped out the wild, that have been bought from the circs, that are in poor condition. So what we do inside the reserve is we service a lot of the tour operators. So the tour companies inside the conservation reserve that would like to learn a bit, so that the guests visiting the camps in the evenings at sunset typically would like to see a falcon show where the sun is going down. And we will then do a show for them at sunset. Another big one for us is where we will get hired by hotels, resorts in and around the city where they have a problem with pest birds. So birds like pigeons, like crows, Indian miners. These pest birds would then, what we do is we come in with our falcons, and by flying our falcons around these buildings continuously, as often as possible, as much as possible, as much as the client can afford us to be there, that is how much work we would put into to create an environment that for the pest, they believe that a falcon lives here. And the minute you can start to convince the pest that this is a falcon's playground, then it's harder then it makes it easier for them to go find another hotel. So then they go next door, and we hope that the hotel next door gives us a ring, right? So that's kind of how we do it. There is a sort of a little bit of it's a bit of a tough thing happening right now in the commercial side of falconry, where outside of real governed areas like the Dubai Desert Conservation Reserve that has a handle on the birds, the people, the vehicles coming in and out, there's a lot of other operators and a lot of other operations in and around the UAE that don't have these rules and regulations. So you will sometimes see some birds in very poor condition, birds that haven't really that just get cycled through. If this is why they'll just replace it, and what that does is it just sort of drives us to a level where commercially it's not really becoming viable. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many years I'll be doing this for as a commercial falconer, but certainly I'll do my best to hold the standard high. Keep trying to share the love of falconry in a way that I think other people should try and view it. So anyway, I mean, I think maybe Maria should open up some questions now. I have been going on a bit. and see if there are any.
Yeah, it is
Um,
very interesting. Thank
and I
you.
can keep going, by the way. If you want me to keep going, those who want to stick around it, we can go all night. But no, I got it. It's if we can go on and see if there's any questions I can answer. I'm sure there might be.
Yeah, yeah, there is a few in the chat. If someone else has some more questions, you can always pop them down. I think we have still one of the polls. Um, I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if you want to launch it. It was let me see,
Sorry about that.
the poll about the fastest
Oh,
recorded
right, yeah.
flight.
Okay, exactly. So when I discussed how as a Westerner we've got that style of falconry where the birds are stooping at great speeds to chase their prey. This is maybe where we can throw the poll up. Let's see if anyone can get how fast.
Okay.
I've witnessed speeds really close to this, and there's a sound that they make when they're ripping through the air that
I'm going to read it out loud because I one of the attendees told me that they cannot see properly the questions and answers. So I will read it, and then the ones that cannot vote, you can put it in the chat. So we have, what is the fastest recorded flight of a falcon? So we have option 1, 369 kilometers per hour. Option 2, 270 kilometers per hour. Option 3, 150 kilometers per hour. Okay. Okay. So for now, at least in the poll, we have 60% winning 369, 40% 270. And then in the poll, in the chat, we are also having some answers. 369, 369, someone says 270, someone says 480.
yeah.
So yeah, but I think 369 is the one winning.
There we go. Yeah, well done. Panos, Dr. Panos.
Yeah,
180.
it's
You got
Panos
some
the
fast,
one
you
that's
got some fast birds there, man.
so now you guys can discuss.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, excellent. Khalid, Peter, okay, I got a question here from Khalid who's asking, Peter, what is your favorite breed of falcon to fly? Um, for me, that's a very straightforward question. It would be a peregrine falcon. And there are 21 subspecies of peregrines. Okay, so you get peregrines on pretty much every continent on the planet. And there's the Calidus peregrine, which is probably my favorite bird by all. And the reasons for that is that I find them very they're quite calm birds, so they're not super highly strung like a gerfalcon. Well, this is a gerperegrine. This is a hybrid between a gerfalcon, which is an Arctic species, crossed with a peregrine, a European peregrine. And the calidus is it's a nice calm bird. When birds are calm, I find them to be really easy to live with. They don't the feathers are always in pristine condition. They always fly strong. They also I find them quite hardy. They don't get as sick as often, and then also they're molting this when they molt at a sort of slightly later than most of the other peregrines. So for me and the work that I do, the calidus and the timing of the molt really sort of suits the kind of work that we are doing. So yeah, let's hope that answers the question.
There is another one. Rajis asked, how do you converse with them?
Yeah. Okay. So good. Our form of communication is all done through the power of food. Okay. So in a case like this where I don't really know this bird very well, I will not try and communicate with it and try and make friends with it when I don't have food in my possession. I feel that's a bit of a waste of time, and I think I can do more damage than good. So when I have food, that's when I'll be hopefully try and become one of her best friends during the time of food, and then gradually, the more and more we spend time together during that feeding process, then we start to talk the same language and we start to communicate a bit better with each other. We're not fighting and arguing as much, you know. Last measure appearance to
Okay, I'm not sure. Panos was saying last measure was because I didn't allow him to talk. So yeah, I'm not sure if you guys at some point you want to discuss about this.
Sure. I'd like to, fair play, Doctor. I'm sure you might have some latest up-to-date data on this, so I'll take your word for it, for sure.
You can always, Panos, you can always share with me what is the result. It's always good to learn new things. So
yeah, 100%, you know.
Okay, Rohail is asking, as an experienced falconer, do you find particular species of falcon are easier to work with others? Do you notice differences in behaviors between species?
Absolutely, 100%. There's no, so for example, so you see today, you know, we hear ludicrous prices on falcons and what they sold for, and these are typically nice big birds that are kind of very white in color or very black in color, and it's genetic. So you're buying into a genetic bird, and these particular birds are Arctic Siberian gerfalcons, you know, so they birds which come from a very cold climate. They're very large in size, large in stature, but they also, the mind that they have on them, they're very super intelligent. Okay, so, and the reason I say they're super intelligent is that if you're going to live in the Arctic, you need to calculate each and every pursuit that you make on a prey in order to ensure that you catch that, because you can't afford to miss too many times the way that an African peregrine can afford to miss. So in Africa, there's an abundance of food. So the African peregrine all day long can just fly around chasing birds, where a bird in an Arctic region needs to be way more calculated. So when you bring that into falconry terms, and as a falconer, when it comes to persuading, communicating, and getting, you know, results, certain species are easier and harder to train, for sure. Yeah.
I have a special request from Panos, because he says that he has some data about falcon cognition. So with your, if you allow me, I will let him, you know, speak. I'm not sure if I can give him, allow mic. Panos, I will allow you the mic.
Good,
The
Dr.
mic.
Panos, you owe me one now, eh? Yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll just be very brief. Excellent presentation, Peter, and thank you for organizing, Maria. And I just wanted to give you a small update, because this is really fresh information. Right now, and I'm sure Peter would be very, very much interested, regarding falcon cognition. Just a couple of years ago, we know that the falcons especially are more molecularly connected or genetically connected or closer to the parrots, and that explains a lot on the training capacities that they do have. And last year, in collaboration with a university in the United States, we started a small group of falconers in the UAE and in South Africa to experiment with falcons to see exactly what are the level of cognition and if this is comparable to parrots, so the intelligence. So that would be the first time that would be done. We know that as falconers that they are what exactly Peter said just right now, that they are very smart birds. We see that that they can be adapted to various environments, from the Arctic to the desert, and they use different strategies. But it would be also this year the second round of the experiments, that it already shows us that they might have a similar intelligence to a gray parrot. And by the way, just to say that the gray parrot has an intelligence of an 8-year-old child. That will be just to give an insight how intelligent are falcons and how much we don't know more and how much there is more to discover on every level. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Panos, that is fascinating, and I think it is I think we've certainly seen, and you've seen it yourself, that there are some birds that really just surprise me. That I'm just like, wow, that's how the process of learning there. So, and to think how parrots can talk and parrots can ride little bicycles and things that. This is quite interesting information. We sort of, as we go through, well, for my time doing it anyway, we've kind of I've been of the thought process that these falcons are just so good at what they do in the wild as a wild falcon that they rely on their instincts and their pure speed and not really their intelligence, but in a clutch, so in a clutch of 3 to 4 babies in a nest, you're probably going to have one that is really an athlete. Okay, it can just fly through the sky and catch anything at once. Then you might have one that is really smart. I'm just sort of explaining it in a way that I would to my tourists visiting me. And the ones that are smart would be almost like thieves, so they would learn to steal food. And they'd learn to, it doesn't mean that they're still not going to be successful or not. They still can still, even as being the thief versus being the strong athlete, they can still become super successful, but it's just now using its intelligence rather than just sheer athleticism. So yeah, it does stem exactly to what Dr. Panos is saying.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you both. It is, I wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah, Panos, let us know more when you have more information, okay? There is another question from Diana. She wants to know about the use of Shenadra. It's ammonium chloride, and apparently was reported that it damages the digestive system, but it has been used between falconers. I'm not sure. She's a vet, so
Sure. Honestly, I can't comment on this. Maybe Dr. Panos can comment on this. I'm not really familiar with. I haven't come across it, and I haven't had many issues with it.
Panos, I allow you again the mic. I don't know if you can say something about it. Now we allow you to give us your knowledge.
Hi, yes, I can comment. What is the exact question about the Sindara?
Shenadra, yeah, ammonium chloride, but I'm not sure why has it been used as a tradition and then.
Is that the one to clear the crop out, Dr. Panos?
Yes, so traditionally there is the idea that the falcons, they are fat. So when the falconers want to reduce the fat, which means reduce the fat component and have more muscles, they use the ammonium chloride stones that somehow they feel that they lose the weight. Why is that? Because when the ammonium chloride is actually triggering the glands of the proventriculus. So the falcons, they have two stomachs, let's say. One is the proventriculus and one is the gizzard. So the one is a glandular stomach that has all the hydrochloric acid and the ventriculus, which is the gizzard, is the muscle stomach, is full of strong muscles, so to break the food. So first the food is coming from the crop to the proventriculus, then it will be somehow melted by the juices, let's say, by the hydrochloric, and the pH is very low, is around 2. And so very acidic, and then it will go to the gizzard and crush that. So now the gizzard, the inner layer of the gizzard is a very, very strong layer, which is called the coiling layer, which is actually protecting the gizzard mucosa, inner side, from the acidic juices. And by having the ammonium chloride, that triggers more acid to come out, and then practically the coiling layer is detached and it will be expelled from the falcon, practically vomited from the falcon. And this kind of thing, it's from the old generation falconers consider that the falcon, it is actually reducing or throwing out the fat. So back in the 1,000 years ago, they would just observe and see, okay, the falcon is taking something out, and this thing is fat. Practically, is not the fat of the stomach, it's the layer. And of course, when without this protection, the inner protection, the falcon after that is more aggressive. Is more aggressive, and it's more let's say hungry, or shows more hungriness, so more aggressiveness as well to eat. And the reason is that because without this coiling layer, it is more subjected to the acidic juices. Of course, the thing is that, or the good thing is that this coiling layer and the acidic, so it can be rebuilt. So also naturally, after some years, it will be substituted. It's not something that it always is. So it is replaced. So they are a thick layer of cells that from time to time, they will be renewed anyhow naturally. But as Peter said, I will go back to the traditional way that Arabic falconers, especially, they were very short in time. So they had only 2-3 months to hunt with the falcons before the weather starts to become, or before the prey goes out. So as a sake of this training or faster training, they wanted to reduce the weight, they wanted to reduce the fat in a faster time. Nowadays, we don't do that, not in Western falconry, not in most of the Arabic falconers, they don't do it anymore. After years and years of education, we were able to convince them that this is not something very helpful. And we had cases that falcons, they get poisoned, or because of the ammonium chloride, or they get very, very weak. And so I think most of the Arab falconers right now, they are more convinced not to use this, or if they use it in a very, 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 very low quantity, and that does not create a detrimental effect.
And Dr. Panos, just tell me if I'm right here, but I also believe it was more widely used after the molt. So typically what happens is the molt, when the birds are molting and changing their feathers, which takes around 3 to 4 months, when they pull them out of the molt, they obviously haven't been flying and the falconers haven't been training them, so they're carrying some excess weight. And well, am I right in saying that? Is that when they would have used that more than during the season, like?
No, you're absolutely correct. Normally, then after the molting, so because also this is another thing that we need to know, that for a falcon to molt needs energy, so it needs fat. So when the falcons stop to fly around March or April, and they are sent to the molting chambers, what we actually do is we stop flying. So all the energy that was going to the training, to the hunting, is practically going to boost the energy of the falcon, to boost the fat of the falcon, so that it will replace faster its plumage. And so the molting is faster. So it's very, very correct what you say, Peter, that after the molting, the falcons are considered to be in their fattest condition, and there is where they use mostly the ammonium chloride. During the season or during the training, I don't think that many people used to do that. Yeah.
A long answer to the question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Panos can talk.
Yeah, you might find that with falconers though. When you get a few falconers around the table, the conversation goes for a while, you know. So
yeah,
that's why I'm gonna leave now. I leave you. I leave you unless there is any more special questions.
One day we will do another webinar with you, Panos. No worries.
No, I have enough webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to, I think there is only a couple of more questions. One from Katie in Mother Falconry. How do the falconers prevent the harm of native species populations by their birds when they send them out to hunt? And how do they control what they choose to go after?
Sure. Okay, good. That's a fair question. And just so you know that natural hunting in the UAE is forbidden. You know, it's not allowed. You know, we're not allowed. So there's not really all the hunting that kind of takes place would be through artificial means, you know. So there's no hunting of natural wild species that's really allowed, you know. So, and typically what happens is the birds that we are using, and when the hunting is taking place, let's say they've traveled somewhere and the hunt is on. It's done through sight. So the falcon is only sort of, so the prey that they want to catch is the prey that they're targeting, and that's the prey that is 99% of the time is where the falcon ends up, you know, is on the specific prey. You know, there's very little. And actually, often what happens when, if I just read your question here, often where the trouble comes is the wild birds end up coming and chasing our captive birds away. You know what I mean? So often we will run into trouble where our birds get chased away by wilder birds. Wilder birds tend to eat up the sky a lot quicker and a lot more adapted, you know. So I think that the wild birds have the upper hand typically over the captive bred birds in a hunting scenario, you know. Do falcons hunt snakes? Do they avoid venomous ones? Can you train them to hunt specific snakes? Not to my knowledge. We've got a question. Sorry, Maria, do you want to read the question out? Okay.
No, it's fine. You read it yourself, no worries.
So we got, do falcons hunt snakes? Do they avoid venomous ones? Can you train them to hunt specific snakes? To my knowledge, no. They don't have any interest in eating snakes. They are primarily, peregrines are primarily bird specialists, so they like to eat feather, birds with feathers. Although, you know, they are known to take mammals. Falcons are both feather and fur hunters. Some Seika falcons, which are Central Asian, they were sort of quite favored by the Bedouin because they were versatile. They would catch feather and fur. But snakes, no. We need to go towards the eagles for snakes, yeah.
Good. I think there are no more questions. Thank you so much. It was very interesting. If anyone has any questions, then when you are, you know, after the webinar, you can always send me an email and then I will contact Pete and I will let you know. So thank you, Pete. It was very, very interesting. I feel like I've been here for 5 years and I've never even seen a proper, you know, I saw you once a little bit in one of your shows, but yeah, it was nice. It's interesting to know what's, you know, the union between the cultural part and at least my part, which is the conservation. So,
I mean, I think, yeah, thank you very much for having me. And I hope, like, in summary, I mean, everything, if we can go away with everything that I do and the love that I have for falcons and falconry, the art of falconry it's about building the relationship here. This isn't a one-sided relationship, but if anything, the falcon is my boss, you know, she's sort of in control of me and I'm kind of maneuvering my way and navigating my way around daily training procedures, daily patterns in order to keep her as happy as I can keep her so that we can not be in this argument the whole time and start to work together as a team. And I think that is the beauty and the art of falconry, you know, in my opinion.
That is good. And that's how it should be. So, well, thank you. For the rest of you, as you know, we are issuing the certificates of attendance, but it's only upon request because a lot of people still are waiting for me to send it. I only send it if you tell me. Okay, so if you guys are interested, just send me an email and then we will prepare them and send them to you. And yeah, thank you so much again. We will post the video in YouTube so you can all like share it with any of your friends. And yeah, anything else from you?
No, all good. Thank you very much. And thanks for the comment, Nimish. That's very cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice evening.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.